Shifters, entrepreneurs on the move, with your host, Amanda Barr, bringing you power-packed 15-minute conversations with entrepreneurs who share their stories of shifting in life and business to keep on the move. Welcome to episode number 4. I have Kevin E. West, both a Hollywood veteran television actor and a badass keynote speaker with over 65 plus credits, including guest stars on Hawaii Five-0, Criminal Minds, Aquarius, Bones, CSI Miami, Justified, Lost, 24, Desperate Housewives, and many, many more. Kevin has been a public speaker since 1991 with more than 1,500 appearances and began his career as a stand-up comic and improv artist. As a true creative, he's a 3-time published author. Books are titled 7 Deadly Sins, The Actor Overcomes, Life in a Word, and Politics in a Word. I also like to add, in 1991, out of a dream and a pure grassroots mentality, Kevin founded and built the award-winning Actors Business Organization, the Actors Network. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Hey, thanks, Amanda.
Yes, and I'm excited to dive in. You've got so many great things happening in your world, and I'm looking forward to, hearing a little bit more of your backstory and how you got to where you are today.
It's all just being a mental case. That's really what it is. It's probably too much coffee. We'll just go with that. It's too much coffee.
That's good. Well, maybe you can share a little bit, you've started, maybe take us back when you were starting and you were thinking about, I want to dive into this world of acting, and you've done a lot of different things, and I'm sure you've gone through some shifts in life. I'd love to kind of find out, what were those things that were the aha moments that you shifted and to move your career or yourself forward?
Well, monster shifts. I mean, I grew up, it almost sounds like some quote from a Steve Martin movie. I grew up in very rural Tennessee. I grew up without a father, and my mother worked a lot, so my sister and I pretty much raised ourselves from about 11 years old in a lot of ways. Obviously a different time, different era, Amanda, but like a lot of people, my goal and desire was to be a professional athlete, and for a lot of different reasons, but a lot because I just didn't grow until later in life. I was very, very small. At 16 years old, I was like 5'2", weighed 105 pounds. I literally had to sit on phone books to drive, no joke, as a sophomore in high school. So I had to shift from the team sports that I like playing so much, especially baseball, and I switched to tennis and golf, again, public school, but for some reason I chose golf, and that for the next couple of 3 years, from 17, 18, 19, 20, I walked on to 2 universities, University of Kentucky and Middle Tennessee State. But, I wasn't a country club kid, and even without being that, which is fine, my lifestyle in terms of assisting my mother did not really lend itself to having the kind of time to practice. So, one of the big first shifts I made in my life was having to put aside, begrudgingly, the desire to be a professional athlete. And I wound up having a conversation with a guy at college one day. That's a really long story, but it did lead me to driving in from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, to go to this modeling school a bit. And I wasn't a model, but I wound up raising some money and going on this event trip in New York, and to be a part of the commercial competition, which I wrote and created my own commercial, and I won.
Wow.
I don't know, 500 or 600 other people from all across the country. And that's kind of what led me to making that shift, making that decision, and then driving and choosing to live in Atlanta way back then for 2 years before moving to Los Angeles.
Wow. So is that the commercial? Did that hit the big air? Was that shown?
Oh, no. It was a performance competition commercial. It was just something that was a requirement for you to compete in this competition. You had to do a commercial on stage.
Oh, that's great.
In front of judges. And so I'm sure some people had parents or whatever help. I mean, I wrote mine.
You just did it.
Yeah, I just did it. It was called the Sports Nut. So,
wow.
And I won. So that's how
awesome.
It all began.
And then tell me, so you went to Atlanta, and then you came to LA, and that's quite the move. I too came from the Midwest, and it's a big move, and it's a big change of life coming here. How was that transition?
Probably It was not the easiest for me, but I actually this is in my actor book because it's a business book and it's so much about our mentality that one of the key things that I discovered, it took me a while, Amanda, to learn it and to understand it, but I unconsciously knew it. One of the biggest things that was not a problem for me coming from where I was to here, no matter where that is, if you went from nowhere to Chicago or nowhere to New York, you'd still face the same problem, which I didn't have to face, and that was I didn't have a family pulling back on me to come back home. My mother was gone from Tennessee. My sister was gone from Tennessee. And other than childhood and high school and parts of college, I didn't have that pull, of like, well, you're not, quote unquote, making it. You're not, a star yet. You should come home and get in the family business or come home and get married and have babies or whatever. And it took me living here a while and also running the Actors Network and being around other actors in that way for me to realize, wow, for me, that was one of the things that probably made that transition a bit easier, was I didn't have someone tapping on my shoulder, every time I went home to the holidays or whatever going, it's time for you to come home, which you see in the movie Rudy, True Story. You see that scenario all the time. So that helped. But yeah, it was certainly an adjustment, but I was used to living alone and being very, self-sustaining. So I got through it. But the biggest transition once I got here was I had gone and done stand-up comedy just a couple of times in Atlanta. And when I got here, I kind of heavily focused on improv and stand-up when I first moved here, just because I'm a smartass. Even though I, I wanted very much, came here to be, as we would say now, a scripted actor. And another shift that occurred for me, Amanda, that was huge in my first 2 years of being here was I did stand up for about a year and a half, a lot. And I finally got to the place where I was good enough that somebody called me, one of the main bookers in town, to book me to do stand-up and to do what you do, which is being an MC for the night and an opener. You do like 10, 15 minutes, and then you MC for the middle and the headliner. That's just and you get paid what you get paid, and it was nothing back in the late 80s. And I remember getting that phone call, and I all of a sudden realized that I had just, for me, gotten to L.A., and the job was in Mississippi. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, I just came from out there. And that's when it really sunk in that stand-up comedy as a profession was going to require me to be gone 280 days out of the year. And this was a huge realization. You're standing alone. We've all had these moments. You're by yourself and you go, oh, I wasn't really thinking about that. And I waited 10, 15 minutes, called the guy back, and I said, you know what, Bob, his name was Bob Zaney. And I said, I'm going to pass on the job. And at that moment in time, I made the decision to not pursue a life as a stand-up comic. I put all of my stuff away, all of my tapes, all of my recordings, all of my notes. Don't regret it at all. Loved doing stand-up. Think it was great training for an actor, but never stepped on the stage to do stand-up since then.
Wow.
So that was another huge shift, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. And then, you had to, make a way, and then you dove right into the acting world.
I did. Yes. I mean, I had already been, actively pursuing it simultaneously while doing improv and stand-up, but then it became my huge focus. And by the early part of 1990, after being here for 3 full years, 87, 88, 89, I got hired in General Hospital, and about a month later, I got hired for my first primetime guest star on Matlock, and as they say, a lot of other things in between that. But I've been working in television ever since. And as we speak, I'm sitting here. I have a pen in me. That's the phrase when you are on hold for a show to fly out to Charleston and shoot The Righteous Gemstones. So that's been my sort of my journey as an on-camera talent, for lack of a better phrase.
I love it. And I know from that you created the Actors Network. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that is, and for those that are out there listening, how they can either get involved or support, or maybe just tell us a little bit more?
Well, I mean, that was a whole, I both applaud, revere, and curse that decision in my life at the same time. I don't want to say it's like for some people having gotten married or having kids, but probably sometimes really similar if it doesn't go well. It winds up being a long story. I'll try and keep it short for the purpose of the podcast. But I am a Pisces. Matter of fact, my birthday is this week.
Wow,
but I
happy
grew up.
Birthday.
Thank you. But I grew up, helping my mother in a restaurant. So I had a really strong left brain aside from being an athlete. And I just, in my first 4 years, because I went through 1990, I just saw what I thought was a lot of unnecessary aggravation and BS and complaining from our community. And there wasn't really a resource back then, pre-computers and cell phones. There wasn't a resource that really solved the business challenge that we had. The craft, sure. Taking pictures, sure. Getting an agent or a manager, sure. But there wasn't something. And so I just had this dream one night, and I called a bunch of people, had a meeting in my apartment, and I just said, hey, 2 weeks from today, I'm having a meeting here, which was in Studio City on Carpenter Avenue, and this is what we're going to do. And 6 people showed up. I think I had 42 people crammed into my apartment. And 6 people showed up. And that was the beginning of what I would call an intelligent business conversation amongst peers. And it lasted 23 and a half years. We won awards. We were the only organization of its kind then and since. We were not a workshop company. I was kind of the anti-workshop organization. And while, yes, I closed the physical studio on June 30th, 2013 for a bunch of reasons, the reality is you can go to our website, which is actors-network.com, and or you can also join the closed Facebook group. When you put the Actors Network in Facebook, you'll get a page and you'll get a group. And you can request to join the group, and we keep the business conversation flowing there for actors.
Awesome. I love it. And, I know that I read in your bio, you live life by 4 agreements. I don't know if you could share what those agreements are, but I'm kind of interested to know.
Oh, do you? Well, it's the book. Are you aware of the book?
No, maybe you can enlighten me a little bit.
Really? Well, there is a book called The 4 Agreements. Okay? And it's an incredibly wonderful book. There's even a companion book for it. But the 4 agreements are, number 1, be impeccable with your word.
Yeah.
Number 2, don't assume. Woof. In a lot of trouble. Number 3, and the one that probably is hardest for most people, but these go in order for a reason. If you're impeccable with your word and you don't assume. And number 3, don't take anything personally. Yeah. Because if you do the first 2, then anyone who has a problem with you, it's probably their problem. And number 4 is always do your best. So if I'm always sincere with what I say, and I don't make assumptions, and I ask questions, and I'm clear, and I don't take stuff personally, and I always do my best, then that is a form of protecting you and living your life in a way that you can always move through. Because I don't like looking over my shoulder. I'm not a liar. I may not always say stuff people want to hear, but I've learned how to, say things in a way that even if it's not what you want to hear, you can at least hear it for that moment. You may not like it, but those are the 4 agreements because it's actually a book. Awesome. It's a wonderful book.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for sharing. And I know that we're cruising right through the time, and I want to make sure that we leave everybody. If you had one piece of advice that you could give for entrepreneurs and those that are either looking to be an entrepreneur or they are now, to keep them on the move, because you have definitely taken the shifts in life and kept moving forward and creating things. So what would be your advice for somebody listening today?
It's going to sound like 2 things, but they sort of go hand in hand, kind of like the 4 agreements. And this is the most simple thing that I can say out of, something I could probably, Amanda, discuss for, 30 hours, which is the following. Be very, very, very wise and purposeful in who you choose to count on or trust in to assist you in your entrepreneurism, and understand that it's most of the time, whatever goals you have, even when you're hardworking, it's probably going to take 10 to 20 times longer than you expected. Because I'm not a patient person, and that was
right.
owning the Actors Network and starting the Actors Network, and also just being an actor in Los Angeles taught me a lot about patience. I still don't really like being patient, but it is actually, it's a virtue if you eventually wind up embracing it.
Yes. Wow.
And
so many great
nuggets. Save your business.
So many great nuggets. You're packed. No wonder you're gracing the stages and speaking all around the world. And, I'd love for those listening today to know how to get, I know you gave the Actors Network, but how can they get in touch with you directly? Because I know that if you're speaking or, you're maybe in their neck of the woods and they want to come to you, how can they follow you, get in touch with you, and be a part of your world, Kevin?
Well, I'm pretty easy to find. I mean, my Twitter and Instagram is @TheKevinE. If there were an event planner or somebody looking to find me, my email is kevin@kevineus.com. It's pretty simple to find me. And of course, my website is kevineus.com. And then if you just put the Actors Network or my name in Google, you'll find me pretty easily. But my social media is @TheKevinE. And my website also has the contact information on it.
Perfect. Well, I just want to say thank you so much. You've inspired me, and I know I'm going to go back and listen again because you gave so many great nuggets, and I've got a book to go get too now, that a couple of them. One's from you and also the 4 Agreements, so I can go learn and learn more. And I just really appreciate you and your time, and we wish you all the best. We're cheering you on, and can't wait to see all the great things you've got coming.
Absolute pleasure, man. I appreciate you having me.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed the episode today. We appreciate each one of you for listening and hope you left inspired and motivated to keep on the move. If you think this episode might help or inspire someone else, please share. Don't forget to subscribe and keep in the loop to hear more incredible stories of entrepreneurs like yourself on the move. Thank you for our supporters, RTB Capital Group, Financial Powerhouse, Callcast, and Power Podcasting. Now, get out there and keep on the move.